Hi, I'm Thorne, a mixing and mastering engineer here in London, and today we're going to be talking about an AI-based software that automatically preps your mix sessions for you and enables you to print multiple prints of your tracks, i.e. your instrumentals, acapellas, and so on, in the background while still being able to use your computer for other tasks. Does that sound too good to be true? Well, it's not, it's here, and it's Forte AI. Hello. So I have been using Forte AI for several months now, and they are adding features and functions at an alarming rate, and they're accepting free feature requests from everyone, all their users. It is currently only available on Pro Tools and Logic, but they assure me that they are eventually going to roll it out for every DAW available. So if you don't have Logic or Pro Tools, fear not. This video is worth watching because this will be available to you in the not too distant future. Now, for transparency, I'm not getting paid for this video, but Forte AI have given me a lifetime version of their software with all the updates in exchange for this video. Let's dive into the computer. We'll talk about what it is and how it works, but what I need to do first is talk through some things in Pro Tools that help the software make a little bit more sense. All right, so my template is multi-layered. It's reasonably complicated, but it's relatively straightforward at the same time. This will make sense in a minute. So I basically have multiple layers for multiple instrumentation. So for example, I have my kicks, and this kick aux is a routing folder in Pro Tools. If you have an aux and you want to store all your audio channels underneath it and open it and close it like this, you just need to click on the channel and go to track and convert to aux folder. It's grayed out at the moment because it already is an aux folder. So my kicks, snares, and toms are all routed to a shells bus. This is here. This is then routed to a drum bus, and then this is then routed to a drum, bass, and percussion bus. And this bus is then routed to my instrument bus, where it joins my acoustics, guitars, pianos, strings, sound effects, and stuff like that. And I've got a similar system for my vocals with lead vocals, backing vocals, doubles, harmonies, ad-libs, and so on. And then this all goes to my pre-master, where I do my automation before it goes to the master. So there's several layers. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is that when you're setting up Forte AI and you use a template to load your session from, you need to have all your aux folders open. Otherwise, it won't route stuff properly. So if you have your session looking like this with all your aux routing folders closed or collapsed, it's going to struggle to play stuff automatically for you, which we want it to do, because this is what really speeds up the process. So make sure all of these are open and every individual bus is available. I don't think you need to go as far as opening each folder, but you have to have each folder viewable from the arrange window. Let's load Forte AI. All right, the first thing you have here on screen is two windows on the left, import and export. Import is for setting up your sessions. This is how you're going to be importing your audio and routing it in Pro Tools. Export is obviously export. We'll talk about that later in the video. So if we go to import settings, we can basically add all of these categories, and that's going to help us route our audio. Now, you can set up just drums, bass, guitars, and so on, but because I've got such a complicated bus routing system, I need to set up a category for each bus that I want each instrument or channel to go to. What Forte AI is doing is using the file name and AI sound detection to figure out what the file is or what the audio is that you've given it, and it's going to route it accordingly, combining these two factors. But for example, underneath my kicks, I have kicks. Right, pretty straightforward. Snares, I have two instruments here. We have snares and rim shots. Overheads, for example, we have overheads, cymbals, rides, and crashes. So you get the idea. There are basically dozens and dozens and dozens of instruments, some of which I've not even heard of, like guasa. I have no idea what that is. But Forte AI do, luckily, and you can basically assign these to any groups that you want. Then what you can do, change the color as well. Now, this all lines up with my DAW preferred coloring system, so this makes sense from the get-go. Then we apply the routing destination. So, for example, kicks are obviously going to my kick bus. Now, at the moment, we can't see that. So what I've got to do here is go back to import and refresh the I/O routing. and that loads the I/O routing from Pro Tools. The reason it's done this, I think, is because I opened Forte before I opened Pro Tools. If you do it the other way around, it will automatically scan your I/O routing. So back to import settings, and let's play with kicks. And I have all my buses here laid out, and I can just select the kicks to go to kicks, snares to snares, and so on. Let's move to module. Now this is where we can rename file names, or we can auto rename stuff. Now what auto rename will do is simplify the file name. So if you have, say, 808 kick.1 v2 or something as a file name, it will just call it kick. That can be good for keeping your sessions nice and neat if you like that. But personally, if ever I need to go back to a client and say, actually, there's a problem on this file, can you reprint it? And Forte AI has changed the file to kick, the client's not going to know what file I'm talking about. So I generally keep the file name so I can go back to them and just get the right file if needed. You can also change it in the DAW later if needed. So you'll see we have Pro Tools and Logic here. Like I said, those are the two DAWs that this is ready for. And in Pro Tools, which I'm using now, of course, we have this import setting here. Now, this is where we can add the audio or copy the audio into a project as you would if you were importing files directly into Pro Tools, or you can copy and convert. And this is where it will convert the file. If, say, you want it at 48 and all the files are at 96, it will copy all the files and convert them down to 48. Just as in mastering, I would go the other way around. If I've got a WAV at 48, I would convert it to 96 for mastering. In this example, the project is at 44.1, but I also received some additional files later that were randomly at 48 kilohertz, which is not a problem because this will then automatically convert those to 44.1. So they're the same as all the other files in the session, because of course you can't have two sample rates open in a session. You can clip rename. I don't bother with that. And this is a feature that I requested. Now, I don't know if they've done this off the back of my request. I'm sure loads of people requested it, but it's really cool that they added it so quickly. I think I requested this like a month ago, which is track height. In the old days of Forte AI, old days meaning a few months ago, all the files would turn up to be really small. All the channels would be micro sized channels, and I like working at medium. So when it brings them in, I want the whole thing just to appear with all the buses and the auxes and the channels medium size. Selecting that will enable that to happen. And we have different options for Logic where you can convert the sample rate to suit the project, or you can change the project. Back to import quickly, and we have a couple more settings down the bottom. So we have strip silence, which I think is just for Pro Tools. And that means you can strip all the silence in your audio regions. So if you have acoustic guitar in the chorus, but none in the verse, it will split. It'll just cut all the silent regions out, which I really like because that really helps you navigate sessions quickly. You can convert all your stereo tracks to mono, and there's various options to do that. So, for example, a lot of people print stereo stems out of Logic by default. So if you get a stereo bass part, this will trim it and just convert it to mono. Naming styles, you've got capitalized various ones. Now, buses in Pro Tools, I name all the buses in uppercase. And just because I have a little bit of OCD, I have to capitalize everything else. But you could put it in lowercase or title casing, whatever that is. All right, so let's press confirm. These are our settings. Let's import some audio. And these are all the files, including the extra ones I got sent. So I think there's 27 of them. And as you can see, it has automatically populated the routing folder here. However, it's got the first one wrong. I don't want these to be fills, but it has rightly detected that it is a drum-based audio file, which we can check, and we can preview the audio. And it's giving us the file information. We've got stereo, it's 44.1, 24-bit, and this has processed this file as a drum folder, but I don't want it as a drum folder, so we can simply change it going here, because I like my fills like that to be under my toms bus. But as we can see, snares, it's rightly assigned as snares and rightly assigned to a snares bus. Fills, we've just done toms, toms, toms. Yes, hi-hats to hi-hats. Bass, it's done all the basses. Now you'll see these files, these were the updated ones, are 48 kilohertz, but it has them processed at 44.1 24-bit. Percussion, that's right. It's identified the ARPs, the pads, the synths, and the synth lead as synths, going to the synth bus, which is great. Impacts, it's got this going slightly wrong. I don't want that going to strings. I want that going to sound effects. So that's cool. Now, the key thing here is this routing box here. What this is going to do is once it's imported all the channels and set up the new channels, once it's imported all the audio and set up new channels, it's going to move these channels into the designated routing folder, i.e. all the drums are going to go to the kicks are going to go to kicks, snares are going to go to snares, and so on. Let's set routing options. Now, once it's processed, the destination is on screen there. And again, it's got it all pretty much right. And oh no, it's got that one wrong. So that needs to go to SFX. Now, I've got no vocals on this track yet. I haven't recorded them, but you'll get the idea about what this software is capable of. So far, it's pretty seamless. Now, I'm obviously talking through this as we go, so it's taken a while. But once you're familiar with this and up to speed, this process literally takes minutes. And once you've got all your buses and destinations pre-arranged in the categories page, this takes no time at all. All right, at this juncture, before I press import and demonstrate the session preparation process in real time, I need to talk about Forte AI's multi-session preparation feature that they've added on this update. This means we can basically set up multiple sessions to be prepared in the background while we work on other tasks. So I've set up this first track now, as you've seen, and to add another track to the queue, I'm going to simply add queue, go to create new ProTools session. This is coming out from this is where we can choose whatever template we want. I'm just going to use the same mix template. I'm going to call this Forte Track 2. And for simplicity, I'm just going to use the same files again. It's going to check the I/O routing is the same as we want. There we go. It's recognized we've changed session. Just press refresh routing. That's fine. And it'll check the routing again. And then we go import audio. And again, I'm just going to use the same files. And I'm not going to do the same changes, but you get the idea, and add to queue. So I'm going to close this window now, but at this point I could add a third track, for example. If you were doing an album, this would make session prep so quick for a full album, especially if you already had a template for the artist. So you can see here we have our 2 sessions ready for preparation. All right, now I don't want to prep both sessions, so we're just going to go back and I'll show you the session prep for the original session that we set up. So let's import that. And you'll see what it's doing in the background. It is loading channels. It is processing audio. It is color assigning things, and it is moving channels into the necessary aux folders. In a minute, I'll show you just how accurate it has been. Forte AI have improved this process consistently as they've introduced more updates. Then it's going to trim all the silence. And as it's doing this, it's converting any stereo files to mono that we selected in the previous process. I didn't select any, so it's not going to do that in this example. I'm not speeding up this footage. This is real time. And we will have a fully set up prepped session in just a moment. I should be timing this. But you get the idea. You can watch on the video timestamp how long this takes in actual real time. Admittedly, only 23 channels. I'm guessing it would take twice as long for 46 channels and so on. You get the idea. It is automatically doing what would manually. This used to take me about half an hour at least to do this kind of stuff. Now we're doing this in 5 minutes. Later on in the video, we'll talk about the export process as well. Stick around for that. Leave your comments in the description. What do you think of this so far? Is it intuitive? Do you like the idea of it? Is it something you'll use? There we go, stripping silence. Boom. So how long was that? And this is our prepared session. And you can see it stripped all the silence there, which is great. So let's open the instrument aux folder, and we've got all of our sub buses below that. Down to the drums. Let's open the shells, kicks, and it's routed the kick successfully. It's routed the snare successfully. And we can go down and check these. It's routed the tom successfully. Have we got synths? Yep, and as you can see, they're all coming up medium size, which is great. So we don't have to faff about and do anything. So the session is prepped. And we can get some mixing. So that's the session prepped. Now what I want to show you is how we can do some exporting. So back to Forte AI, and we're going to go down to the export tab. And again, what it's done there, as you saw, was it's just checked the routing. Let's do some custom prints. All right, on this page, you can see all the tracks available that we can select to export, but you'll notice it's the buses. And if we scroll further down, we should get to all the individual tracks, but I don't want to bounce any individual tracks. I want to bounce the buses because that's how I've been processing my session. So we're going to select up here what this icon does here. If we selected, say, the drum bus and the bass bus, it would bounce those two together as they are performing in the DAW. So you'd get a drum and bass bounce. But I don't want to do that right now, so I'm going to go for an individual files because I want an individual drum bus and an individual bass bus. So we're going to go drum bus. We're also going to get rid of that name for reasons I'll show you in a minute. Drum bus, and then we're going to select bass bus. Just do 2 for now for the sake of speed. At this point, we're going to set the parameters of this print. The base file name we're not going to touch because that will label both files the same thing. And at the moment, they're going to come up as drum bus and bass bus as they're labeled in the DAW, but you can customize that. We get to select the mix source, which is kind of cool. For example, if you just wanted the drum bus processing, you could just select the drum bus. But I don't want that because I'm obviously bucket mixing, so I want all the instrument bus processing, I want the mix bus processing. I want that all on so that that is indicative of the full mix if someone were to try and piece it together later. Give or take side chaining. That would be another feature that would be wicked for AI, Forte AI to set up. Method, auto, online or offline. If you're using analog gear, obviously, as in normally in Pro Tools, you need to print in real time, so online mode, or offline mode if you're just mixing in the box, and it can do it several times faster than in real time. But I'm going to select auto for now. File type, WAV or AIF. It's slightly annoying you can't select MP3 here. So you can select multiple different file formats. For example, we could do a 16-bit 44.1 and we could do a 24-bit 48 and it'll upsample that. Where this tool is going to be really great is if you're mastering multiple tracks and you can do a Spotify version, a high resolution version and a full 96K version. Then we select our output folder and we're going to go into bounce files, choose, and then we print. And that's going to print in the background. And what I can do in the meantime is go into Final Cut and do some other work. I'm going to set up a new podcast edit for the Working Audio Tools podcast with Paul. I'm going to just do this in the background while Forte AI. I can't spell and type at the same time as talking. But Forte AI, as you can still see there, is working in the background. You can bring it up as well and check. Still going. Pro Tools, still working. So what a lot of the other softwares do is close off your computer and you have to go and do something else. But Forte AI is enabling you to carry on working on other projects. This is so valuable for time saving. So you can, if you were doing analog prints, for example, you could set up 10 different instrumental stems to bounce through. 4-minute song, that'd be 40 minutes. You're not locked out of your computer for 40 minutes. You just carry on working, do something else. Now, as long as you don't need to faff around with your audio routing or audio I/O, for example, like I wouldn't be doing this and then trying to open Logic. We all know Logic and Pro Tools don't like each other. So that's not going to work. And your Mac would fight for interface priority. So that's not going to work. But if you're doing something meaningless, or remedial, like admin or emailing clients or web updates, whatever you have to do, in this case, setting up a podcast edit session, I can do this in the background while all this printing is happening. And in the background, while I've cracked on working on the podcast, this has bounced some prints for us. So if we go to open session folder, we can see our prints have come into effect. And the final feature to show you is how to set up a multiple session export queue. So I've set up some categories here, and these are my most used and regular exports. I'm not going to show you how to set up these. There's a video on the Forte AI website that shows you how to do this. And I'm going to select all the tracks I want exporting, and we're going to call this track, I think we're on track 2, aren't we? So track 2, create print, set parameters, add to queue. So that is Forte track 2 is set to bounce. Now let's set up a second track. Let's go just to track 1. Why not? Obviously save. Let ProTools do its thing in the background. So in our queued sessions folder, we can see that we have Forte track 2 that we just set up ready to go. And we have Forte track 1 ready now. So let's set up a custom print. Track 1, 10 tracks ready to go. Set parameters. Call that track 1. I'm not going to change any of those. All right, now rather than press print, I'm going to add queue print and just show you that we do in fact have 2 sessions queued. Forte track 2, Forte track 1, and we can close that window there. And if you need to set parameters again, you can do that and press print from there, or you can go to these icons here and print queue, and that is our print queuing. Away we go. You get the idea though, that is how easy you can set up combinations of stems and files for printing. Goes into a folder for you where you designate it. You can check straight out of the application. It's just so easy. It's ridiculous. And the fact that you can work in the background, like I said, is absolutely brilliant. All right, before we go, let's take a quick moment to talk about pricing. There is a subscription option. There is even a free option, and there is a pay once option. We have the all DAW package, which incorporates the import and export feature for Pro Tools and Logic, or you can buy the import and export features together for just one of these DAWs. As you can see, there is a free version. However, it is limited to 8 audio files and 1 export. So pretty small files for most of us doing this professionally. That's not really an option. Then there's other subscription per month file options, and then there's the pay once option. And this is what I've been given in exchange for doing this video. Like I said earlier, thank you Forte AI. I use this every day. Now, if you get this option, it's €499 for both Logic and Pro Tools and any other DAWs that they bring in with updates up to 12 months. So if you bought this now and in 6 months they introduce Studio One and Ableton, you'd get access to that as well. Beyond that, if you do want to get updates beyond that 12-month period, you will have to pay a €49 update, which I don't particularly like, but I understand that software requires so much development, and Forte AI works so hard on this. I get why they need to charge for it. But as it is now, it is a very usable, workable software that if you pay for once and have in perpetuity, you're going to use it all the time. If we just look at the Pro Tools version, it's €100 cheaper and a little bit cheaper per month. Wouldn't it be funny if Logic was cheaper? Yeah, it is. No way. It is cheaper. Typical. Why is everything to do with Pro Tools more expensive? I suspect it's because you can probably do less in Logic than Pro Tools. So those are your options, and you have a 15-day unlimited trial. I'll put a link in the description below. I would highly recommend trying this software. Once you get the hang of it and you've set it up for your workflow and you've set up your bus systems, honestly, it's setting up sessions in 5 minutes. It's literally taken what was a half-an-hour job down into 5 minutes. And like I said, if there are any bugs, email them, tell them about it, and they just update it and they just fix it. It's remarkable. Let me know what you think. Are you going to use this? Do you like the idea of it? Do you use something else? What features would you like? That's going to be key. I reckon you guys will have some really good ideas about additional features, and I probably haven't covered them all in this video, which is long enough already. So on that blonde ginger bombshell, I'm going to leave this. leave you with Forte AI. But thanks for watching. Be kind to each other and most importantly to yourself. And I'll see you on the next one.